Welcome back to this week's episode of the Spitters podcast with myself, Adam Neeson. Heidi is away this week. Lucky her, she gets to take a little break off. So, as always, when it's just me, let's talk about one of my favourite musical artists. The last podcast I did with myself about a musical artist was all about Nick Cave. And that was actually quite a popular episode, apparently. I didn't think anybody would be interested in listening to me ramble on about the Dark Lord Nick Cave. So let's get into somebody a little bit different, probably unexpected. If you know me, you probably know that I love hip hop music. Completely different to what Nick Cave is. I'd say I have a pretty eclectic taste in music. I love 60s and 70s and 80s, like pop and rock. I also love hip hop music and stuff like Nick Cave and indie music from the last 15 years. It'll come to the point where we'll do an episode all about my love for TLC. But this week we're going to talk about Oliver Tree. If you don't know who Oliver Tree is, you might recognize his face from Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. He's become quite popular in the last 6 months, pretty much. You would know him to see because he looks so weird. He has a bowl haircut. He has a fluorescent jacket kind of thing, pretty much like a retro 90s jacket. Flared jeans, and he rides a scooter a lot. Now that might sound like the biggest dickhead in the world, but that is the point of Oliver Tree. He is a hip-hop, indie punk, indie pop artist who was famous on Vine for playing a character called Turbo, who was a jumped up, ignorant teenager type character, and that has kind of been morphed and transformed into what Oliver Tree is now. Oliver Tree as a concept is pretty much the Jake Pauls of the world, where you've taken someone who has gotten famous pretty much for no reason and blown it up out of proportion to be these arrogant dickhead characters that kids seem to love on YouTube. Oliver Tree plays a character, even though his music, it's I can't even think of an example. Eminem, kind of, where Eminem is the character, where Marshall Mathers is the actual person. But of course, the real life person shines through into the character. Oliver Tree, he looks ridiculous. He looks like a joke. But once you actually listen to his songs and get into his lyrics, you realise he's working on a different level than everybody else. It's what makes him different between somebody like Jake Paul. He is genuine, but of course plays the arsehole, spoiled, rotten teenager. Even though he is 25, he's a month younger than me. He has created something that I think is just perfect, and really appeals to stuff I love. I love seeing creative people make creative choices and it actually pay off. We'll want to go back and see where Oliver Tree kind of started. He released an album before the whole Oliver Tree thing took off. He was going just by the name Tree. The album's called Splitting Branches, and the most famous track of it is a cover of a Radiohead song called Karma Police. It's not that an amazing of an album, but you can definitely see the seeds of what grew into Oliver Tree. That pun was intended. But the real start of Oliver Tree's career was the rise in popularity of a song called When I'm Down. Now, When I'm Down is a really good song, and it speaks about not depression as a sadness thing, but it speaks of mental illness in the sense of somebody who overthinks a lot or over worries a lot. He says, "My head explodes when I'm alone," and I think that's a feeling a lot of people can understand. A lot of people that suffer with anxiety or overthinking, it could be dangerous at times. I know I deal with it on a daily basis. That's just my own mental illness coming through, but overthinking and overanalyzing and seeing stuff that just isn't there, it's dangerous when you are alone, and you do need somebody to talk to about those things. It really helps, and he is just using his music to kind of express how he feels, which is obviously how music is meant to be used most of the time. Every famous artist in the world writes songs about how they're feeling, pretty much. It's usually the make or break thing when being an artist. If you're making music just for the sake of making music, just for the sake of making money as well, you can obviously tell there's tunes on the radio every single day that you can tell the artist behind it was just trying to fill an album or trying to meet a certain release schedule for singles or stuff that needs to just be played on the radio just for filler. And you know what, there's nothing wrong sometimes with just tunes that mean nothing, but having meanings behind songs is what brings in your audience, which helps create a fandom or a community. Obviously, that's why people love the Beatles, love Elton John, love Biggie, Tupac. It's an inclusive thing to have as an artist by drawing people who are not vulnerable, but people that think in the same way you do. It's the magic of being a musician, of capturing the minds of like-minded people, because then they're the people that are going to come support you. They're going to buy your merch, they're going to buy the tickets to see you live, they're going to be the people that record podcasts recommending your stuff. I'm not sponsored in any way, of course, by Oliver Tree. I just have a love for his music, and wanted to talk about it today, of course. But of course, if Mr. Oliver Tree wants to give me free tickets to the show, I'll be happy to take them. How I got into Oliver Tree, I should start with, is through the music video for Alien Boy. It's actually the video, it's 2 songs in the one video. It's Alien Boy and All That, and it first kind of captured my attention because I seen clips of it on Instagram. Just the weirdest images of a kid with a bowl cut riding a scooter rapping, and also in the music video it had a monster truck and people blowing other people up with bazookas. It's just madness is the only real word to describe. Instagram is just so full of self-promotion, pretty much. We can all admit, even myself, that's what Instagram is. It's the gratification of getting likes from other people, because it makes you feel good. And sometimes when you have a brand, you have to do a lot of shit eating. Like, I know myself, running the Spit Roast Instagram like page, I'm not that great at it because I don't really, not that I don't have the backbone to kind of be like, oh, come listen to my stuff. I kind of feel self-conscious about pushing stuff in people's faces when I know they've already seen it. But that's the double-edged sword you live when you're trying to create entertainment. That's why I try and make my covers for the podcast a little more interesting when I can. It's why the podcast is called the Spit Roast Podcast, because it's the double meaning, it's the double entendre of it. If you know what spit roast is, you go, oh, that's gross. But if you don't, it's also, oh, it's just a pig on a fire. We talk about everything on this podcast, mainly movies. Of course, we talk about music when it's just myself. Later episodes of the podcast I have planned is more like interview type shows with people that I've got planned. But sorry, I'm just being detract. Oliver Tree, his self-promotion for the Alien Boy music video was just unique in a way that he knew he had to capture people's imaginations in the space of 30 seconds. So having something so ridiculous as monster trucks and explosions really can draw people in, because it's a bit of everything for everybody. And then when you push the button to have sound on a video on Instagram and listen to the actual song, you go, oh, that's actually a really good song. I'm glad I stopped and listened to what this person had to offer. The Alien Boy song itself is pretty much Oliver Tree saying that he's not like everybody else. And to me, it's not really in a braggy way. It's a way of saying that he's thinking above everybody else that's on his same level. I hate using Jake Paul as an example, but he's just in my targets at the minute. I do not like the man. He is an arsehole. But he is that fine star that raised like the bar and has become famous. He's like the poster child for what Oliver Tree is attitude wise pretending to be. But Oliver Tree, he's saying that he's not like anybody else. He's from a different planet. He thinks in an alien way, and he's trying to be more human. He's trying to be like everybody else, but it really isn't working out for him. And really, like, for a person that gets on like a dickhead, it takes a different level of thinking to not be yourself ever on social media. He plays a character through and through. His Instagram is ridiculous. His interviews on YouTube, where he has to be quote unquote himself, are ridiculous. He's all about being a professional scooter enthusiast, which is not a thing. His documentaries on YouTube, which are on his channel, and they're like anti-documentaries. They are like, the first one is about him being on like his first tour, and it's a documentary about how everybody hates Oliver Tree and how everybody hates working with him because he's such a prima donna. It's a weird self-promotion thing to put out something where if you were naive or young enough, you would watch that and think, hold on, is this a character or is this a real like person? Like it's he blurs the lines between what is real and what is fake, and he shows more realness in the fakeness of everything. Now that sounds strange, but I mean, where someone like Jake Paul gets on in his videos as if everybody loves him and everybody wants to be him because he's got so much money and stuff. Really, in the background, he probably is just as arrogant and dickheadish as Oliver Tree is pretending to be, even though Oliver Tree is a character. It's kind of like Alan Partridge, in a way, where Alan Partridge is a person. We've seen him grow from like the 90s TV show to his most like recent stuff on like the BBC and his Mid-Morning Matters. But of course, Alan Partridge isn't a person. It's a character played by Steve Coogan. And he has had a 30-year span of creating a character that can stand alone. If you didn't know who Steve Coogan was, you would believe that Alan Partridge was a real person. Same with Oliver Tree. If you didn't know that Oliver Tree was a character, looking from the outside in, you would just think, oh, he's just like any other YouTuber fine star. Which is, I don't know if it's impressive or depressing. It's really hard to say. But the next kind of phase in Oliver Tree's like music video discography or whatever, unfortunately there's not much to say about Oliver because he hasn't really released enough songs to really like have like a greatest hits of. But pretty much his latest hit or like first big major song is a song called Hurt. And this song actually is one of my favourite songs at the minute. It's the song I show people when I want to recommend Oliver to people, because it's not that it's not as weird, because it's definitely weird, but I think listening to the lyrics, they're a bit more relatable. Of course, recently there was a Genius video that came out. Genius is a YouTube channel that breaks down like song lyrics, and they have the artist on to talk about the songs. They recently had the Backpack Kid come on and talk about I be flossing, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen. But then for Oliver Tree to come on a few months later and talk about Hurt, that is actually a song that means something. It actually has a meaning to, like, behind it, rather than a song about fucking flossing. Oliver came on in character, of course, and talked about how the song Hurt is about how he broke both of his arms in a scooter accident years ago. Now, that's not a real thing, and he is continuing to this day to say on his Twitter and Instagram that it is a real thing, that he was in a scooter accident, and maybe he was. He has photos on his Instagram of him in a cast. Could clearly be photoshopped, because there's a lot of photoshopping going on some of his images to create this backstory to the Oliver Tree character. But the song to me is about his parents, or maybe just one of his parents, or somebody who just didn't believe that he could be a thing. and he blamed himself for a long time of being a fuck up. But now that he's become a bit famous, or he's starting to succeed, he's saying, can you not just believe me for a day? Can you not just believe what I'm doing is right? And it's an interesting song, and it's an interesting music video, because the song has this really deeper meaning, where the music video is ridiculous. It's him being put into a ambulance, and then the ambulance crashes, and a coffin falls out the back of the ambulance, and he wakes up out of the coffin in a giant suit, and then a tank comes down the motorway and shoots his head off, and where his head used to be was a hole, and birds fly out, and then he's on a roof, and he jumps off the roof in a giant red tracksuity coat thing. It sounds like madness, but I totally recommend going to go watch the music video and listen to the music, because it's fantastic. Of course, accompanying the music video was another documentary about the making of a music video. I think it's called How to Make a $1 Million Music Video, and it's Oliver traveling to the Ukraine to make the video, and just like in his style, being a big prima donna the whole time. Everything goes wrong. The clothes sizing is too wrong, because he gave the wrong measurements, because he did it in metric. I don't know how you measure clothes, but everything is giant. He's wearing a giant suit. He's wearing a giant coat. His hat is massive. He is having fights with the record producers. He's demanding more money on set. He's saying that it isn't safe, that he doesn't want to do any of the stunts. He's just being a brat and a dickhead the whole time. And of course, none of this is real. None of, he is a genuine artist making a genuine music video, but he went to the effort of telling everybody, I'm going to be a dickhead when this cameraman is following me, and you need to play along that I'm the worst artist you've ever worked with. And everybody follows along, and everybody's so good at pretending that Oliver Tree is just an arsehole. And it's hard to watch sometimes, because you really don't know what's real and what's fake. It's just so interesting to watch in a world of you don't get documentaries about music videos, and when you do, it's all the artists being like, oh, it's such a good time, oh, all these backup dancers are amazing, popping champagne and celebrating and watching the edits in the editing room, talking how everything is going so well, and how everybody you worked with was such a constant professional the whole time. Then Oliver releases a video that's just, I'm the best thing in the world. He goes to the airport, and the guy that picks him up has a piece of paper that says Oliver Tree, and then in brackets underneath it says ugly boy. They went to the trouble of going to the Ukraine, and then once they got there, they were still okay, this will be funny. Let's put this out side by side. And it's not as if Oliver Tree is a multi-millionaire. He's not like Eminem, who's been about for years, and if he wants to do something incredible, he can do it clicking his fingers. But Oliver is forward thinking. He is smart. He knows that stuff like this will get talked about. Therefore, promoting his music, so it's worth the effort. If that works for him, great. But I think he's just a bit of, like, he's ahead of his time. He's like the Andy Kaufman of the music industry right now, and unfortunately, I don't really see it really not helping him in the long run, but short term, it's people like me or other YouTubers who are going out and being like, you need to see this, whereas his persona is just being shown in a photograph, and then people are just judging it off the photograph. Because I think he could be an artist as big as like a Drake or whatever, but of course, people like Drake just make music for the sake of getting on the radio. Drake, of course, has some deeper songs than that, but most of his like banger hits are ridiculous. Like Hotline Bling. They're the most popular songs in the world. And Oliver, unless Oliver just comes out and is like, fuck it, I'm just going to make a song that's just for the top 40, just to get people in. All the power to him. I'll be behind him, but I really don't want to see him go down the route of abandoning his artistic value just for the sake of being popular, because in this world of YouTube at the minute, he could carve out his own niche following, kind of like a young Weird Al, who not mainstream. Now Weird Al is mainstream in a sense of he's referenced in a lot of stuff, like he's in Naked Gun and he's in episodes of The Simpsons. He's a household name, but realistically, nobody's really playing Eat It on the radio every single day of the week. Nobody's playing any of his polka tunes on the radio. White and Nerdy was probably Weird Al's most popular song, in the sense that that's the one that everybody knew because it came out at the right time of like a MySpace, Facebook, Bebo type of generation when YouTube first started, and everybody just watched that music video. So it's the deeper question of where does technology go from here? Are we just on the cusp of advancing over YouTube? Because YouTube is already better than television at the minute. I would rather watch somebody sit down and do a podcast on YouTube for an hour than sit and watch whatever's on TV. Apart from event television, like your Game of Thrones and stuff, that's the only time anybody ever watches television. Terrestrial television is dead. Event television is what's happening, and music industry wise, I don't know where the next evolution is going to be, because weirdly a lot of things are going downhill for the music industry at the moment. As of this recording, songs by Michael Jackson have stopped being played on the radio because of his sexual harassment allegations towards young kids. R. Kelly is maybe sexually assaulted women. 6ix9ine is in jail. Fucking Ja Rule was like connected to the Fire Festival that's in like the circle now. Drake is getting accused of pedophilia. The music industry is so fucking weird at the minute that I don't know where a person like Oliver Tree fits in, and that's sad in a way. But thankfully, we have someone like Oliver Tree that you can separate yourself from and just enjoy on a level of he's talking about personal things that connect to you, while also making music videos that are surreal and weirdly entertaining without being too political based or reality based. That it's a form of escapism while still keeping you connected to what the human brain needs, which is connection to others. Oh, sorry, that got deep. So let me just end this section with a song called Movement, which is pretty much about being just consistent, just keeping moving forward, keep pushing yourself, and that's how you continue to live, like, creatively wise. When someone tries to stop you, just say no, just keep going. Shouldn't really say just, if someone says no, just keep going, when we've just talked about R. Kelly. But on a non-rapey way, creatively pushing yourself forward, and you'll reach a level of your, like, peak, what you want people to see and know you as. Much like this podcast, pushing myself to get podcasts out every week and being consistent. And thank you everybody for listening to me ramble on about this shite. But the more people that listen, the more people feel connected to what I'm saying. It helps. It helps me, helps you, and, well, I hope this helps you. And Mr. Oliver Tree certainly helps me in a way. But Movement, of course. Let's have a little listen to this, and then we'll move on to our next artist that we'll talk about after the break.
Movement was my only tell. Running through the door yelling, what the hell? I'm moving while you talk. Don't talk shit, you gon' break your jaw. Movement was my only chance. Full speed ahead was my only plan. I'm moving while you talk. Don't talk shit, you gon' break your jaw. I'm moving, I've been on the run. Somebody better help me, son. I'm moving, I've been on the run. Somebody better save me, son. Who cares if you trace my same steps?
Welcome back. Of course, that was Oliver Tree's Movement, which is actually a bit of a banger. Now, moving on to a different artist, but in the same type of genre of music, but not the same type of personality as Oliver Tree. I want to talk about Nakey Jakey. Now, this guy is a bit of a legend on YouTube at the minute because, well, in the circles of videos I watch anyway, he's often a collaborator with Gus Johnson and Eddie Burback. He's been on their podcast, and he makes YouTube video essays about video games, but he makes them in a very unique way. He has a particular sense of humour that really just gets me. I find it hilarious. It's odd. He has a green screen, and he sits on an exercise ball while he presents his video essays, and it seems like cheapish or bargain basement type, like, creation of videos, and that's kind of what it is. But the content is so rich and informative and entertaining that it all, like, kind of comes together in, like, the perfect way. He super funny guy, super relatable guy. He never puts on any sort of act that he's, like, above anybody else. He's just being genuine. And you can tell that the stuff he talks about, he genuinely loves or hates, depending on what he's talking about. Because he creates videos that are unique. He talks about the demo discs that used to come with Pizza Hut or Scholastic when it used to come to school, and the video games that he used to buy, like the educational ones. He has a love for Rockstar Games. He's a very popular video at the minute about Red Dead Redemption 2 and how he loves the game, but he's sick of Rockstar's kind of engine that they use for every game since like 2001 when GTA 3 came out. But what I didn't know about Nakey Jakey was that he is also a bit of a musical artist. He performs rap music, so you can't really say he's not a real singer. He doesn't have a record, what's the word? Like an agent, or he's not on a label, is what I should say. But he really should be, because he creates his own music by himself. He might get some help, but from what I know and believe, he creates it by himself, by sampling other things, creating his own beats. He's musically gifted, in a sense that he can create beats, very catchy beats, using samples from video games and movies and other rap songs, which isn't new, of course. If you're into hip-hop, a lot of people sample a lot of things, but Nakey Jakey, or just Jakey as he goes by, for like his music stuff, is relatable, not in a sense of like artistry is, where he's being bombastic but talking about deeper things. Jakey kind of connects with his listener. He takes you on a journey about what he went through at like a very specific time. From what I believe, these songs were written in a time when Jake was going through a bit of depression. He'd been through a breakup, so these were kind of written after that stage of breakup where you've got like anger. It's strange that whenever you love somebody and then you go through a breakup, you always have a bit of a pushing forward in being creative if you are a creative person. But a bit like myself, I went through a breakup, and then that pushed me into starting a stand-up career, because I was fueled, the raw emotion of being broken up with made me angry, made me passionate about something that I needed to talk about. Same with Jakey, where a lot of his songs are about love or breakups or, sadly, friends who have passed away, which I can relate to. A friend of mine passed away in a car crash, and that was when I first started doing stand-up. He actually... I did a stand-up show one Friday night, and it was honestly one of the best nights of my life, because I was just starting, and I was kind of like taken under the wing of some of the big boys in the industry. I was seen as like an equal, kind of, and I did a really good gig. And the next morning I woke up to a text message from my friends that told me that one of my friends had passed away in a car crash. And at that time I was 16. It's kind of a going from a high to a low point in the space of like 12 hours. So I can really relate to what Jakey is saying in some of these songs. His album is called Dead Friends, which the album hasn't been released yet, unfortunately. It's been 2 years in the making, and I think his YouTube stuff taking off has kind of held him back from finishing the album. Like, maybe he knows that his career is going in a different direction now. He was just trying something back then, and now he kind of knows what he's doing, and I can kind of see myself. I was trying something back in the day with stand-up, and now they've got the podcast and stuff, I kind of know what direction I'm going in life. Sorry, this podcast is getting a little bit too deep. Hopefully you're enjoying it though. So let's get into some of Jakey's songs. We'll start with Cafeteria, because that's just a banger song. There's not really much too deep about it. It takes some samplings from movies and TV shows. It takes its chorus pretty much from It Takes Two by Rob Bass and Easy Rock. Just a great song, really. Easy to listen to. And one of my favourites. It's the one I would, like, if I'm walking down the street listening to Jakey, it's the one I would put on like replay if I just want to listen to the same song over and over again, because I'm not travelling that far. Let me see. We have South Dakota, which is a song all about where he lives and his point of view of where he lives. If I think of South Dakota, I kind of think like snowy mountains, like a South Park type town. Like, I don't know anything about South Dakota, but this is his interpretation of how he sees his city, state. Is that what South Dakota is? I don't mean to sound like an arsehole for not knowing, but it's also just a good tune. Not much too deep about it. It's kind of, a lot of Jakey's music features him talking about like dropping out of school or being broke, not achieving anything. It's kind of a little snippet of his life at that time when recording these songs. Of course, his life has probably changed now thanks to YouTube, but it's interesting to see a guy who at that time was probably 20, 21, going through college life, experiencing new things, and I know from his YouTube videos, he's done videos about his younger life and how depressed he was. He's a video called Dark Soul Saved My Life, which was about when he was going through a dark time in his life. A video game called Dark Souls kind of gave him a purpose, like getting to the next checkpoint, defeating bosses, feeling like he's succeeding something, even if it's just him in bed. If you can't get out of bed, if you're feeling depressed and you feel like physically you can't get out of bed, it's actually good to have video games in your life, because video games give you a sense of an achievement because you've overcome something. You've beat the next level, you've beat the whole game, you've collected all the whatever it is in the game. And I know, like, video games, like, aren't real life. Spending your time playing video games all day long, maybe not the most proactive thing to be doing with your life, but when you're in a mental state that you can't physically get out of bed, being able to have that feeling of achieving something is very, very important, because once you build up the courage, kind of, to get out of bed, then it's the small achievements in your day-to-day life which can like correlate with a video game. So getting out of bed, that's an achievement. Brushing your teeth, that's an achievement. Putting on your clothes, going to a shop, saying hello to somebody, these are all achievements in life when you're struggling with your mental state. So I think Jakey kind of touches on all of these subjects in all of his songs. South Dakota, although it's a song about just living in a state, both literally and metaphorically, living in a state of routine and boredom in a place that is maybe not that exciting. Like South Dakota, I believe, isn't really that exciting. It's not a big metropolitan place, but just the little achievements he makes on his day-to-day life is still very important to him, and he wants the world to know that. Moving on to a song called Moby Dick, which is a really great song. I think it's one of his better songs, but it is a song about a breakup, and Moby Dick is a whale, of course, and as described by Jakey himself in the description for his YouTube video, he kind of breaks down what the song is about, and it's pretty much that love is like a white whale. Sometimes it can be such a big part of your life, like if you go hunting for it, it takes over your life. Like if you go hunting for love, it can take over your life, it can take over your brain. If you can't find love, you feel despair, just like the story of Moby Dick. You could ruin your life chasing something or being chased by someone. You also kind of have the factor of like being lost at sea, feeling lost at sea yourself while going through a breakup. And these kind of songs are important, especially for like the listener, because they will relate. But I mean, on a personal level, for Jakey, it's important that he was feeling these things and then wrote them down and then made them into a song to entertain other people. Maybe that wasn't his intention fully. Sometimes you just have to make art just for yourself to kind of put it in a box and be like, that is an encapsulation of how I felt at that moment in time. And I know that Jakey feels better now. Like, this song was released like 2 years ago. He is succeeding now and he's doing very well in life, but I can imagine at that point he kind of felt like he needed to say something, and being a creative guy like him in a state like South Dakota where you just kind of have your friends and nobody else, it's good that he's able to create the piece of art that he can put his own unique twist on it. Like, it's not a new thing. Talking about love or breakups is literally what the music industry is built on. I've always had a theory that every song ever created is a love song. Think about all your favourite songs, they're probably all about love. Like, not love in a sense of when a man loves a woman, but of course that is a song. But like, even songs like like Pizza Hut Pizza, Country Fried Chicken and a Pizza Hut. That song's about loving fast food. Just I can't think of songs right now, but literally sit back and think of your favorite song, and it's probably a song about somebody loving something, or somebody loving someone, or somebody liking something. Then again, there is just songs about nothing, which are less said about the better, kind of sometimes. Where the next song is Saint Life, which is probably my favourite song. It's the catchiest song by Jakey. And like I say, his music is about breakups and finding love and losing love. This is definitely a finding love song. It feels like someone who's just got into a relationship, or is reminiscing about just being in a relationship, because he seems happy in the music video. He seems like someone who's content of being with someone else. He's saying, "Oh my God, Becky, look at that butt," which then in the next verse turns into, "Oh my God, look at that ass." It becomes more sexualized. He's talking about drinking and taping the balls to your hands, which is, I don't know, like an allegory for being bound to something that you love, even if it's bad for you. Maybe that's me overthinking it, but it's just a really great song, to be honest with you. Much like Oliver Tree, unfortunately, Jakey doesn't have a whole repertoire of like best of songs. Like, it's only really 5-6 songs. He's a few other tunes from a few years ago on a SoundCloud, which are interesting to listen to, but I feel like the main ones that are on Spotify and YouTube are kind of like his top tier creative wise songs, and I really hope he gets to finish his album that he's been working on. I know he's mentioned it kinda on Twitter and stuff that he'd like to finish his album, but it is hard to say, because like, if his YouTube career is going well, he can't really stop that and focus on music, unless of course he's the type of guy to be like, fuck it, just never mind the YouTube career, let's just focus on music, which, you know, sometimes might be the smarter thing to do, because YouTube, with the whole adpocalypse thing and getting copyright strikes and stuff, it's not the most sustainable thing to make a career out of, unfortunately. We all try our best. We all know that YouTube is like, there is big YouTube stars, people have made livings off YouTube, but easily it could come next week where the YouTube boss just says, okay, we're shutting everything down, and then that's just hundreds of thousands of people out of jobs. And it's weird to say that YouTube can become a job, but I suppose it's like anything else. It's a like a TV network, or a radio job, or like it's an entertainment job. It's people make videos for YouTube to entertain, and those are the most popular people. Of course you have Jake Paul, fuck you. But in a way, he knows how to be entertaining and how to make revenue. He's, for as much as I don't like him, he is smart. He can make business decisions, and there is that little corner of YouTube that is genuinely creative people, like Bo Burnham has come out of YouTube, and everybody would say that he's probably the best thing to ever come out of YouTube, because he's made a career out of making silly songs, then moving into stand-up, having a following, creating stand-up, which is still silly, but he makes it very personal, and then taking that success and going on to direct a movie called 8th Grade, which didn't get any Oscar nominations, wasn't considered for Oscars, but was on Barack Obama's top 10 list of movies for 2018, which must just be mind-blowing for someone. I know, like, if I made a YouTube video and then 4 years later I made a movie and then an ex-president was like, that's my favourite movie of the year, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. So I'm going on so many tangents on this podcast, it's actually mental. But all the power to Jakey. I hope him all the success in the world. The last song I want to talk about of his is called Medium, which is a double meaning kind of song. Medium as in it's the size he used to wear of t-shirt, and now he's a large, but he's talking about how things used to be, so medium that way. And also medium as in someone who can talk to the dead, because the song kind of touches on that he had sex with one of his friend's girlfriends, and then that girlfriend a few years later went on to commit suicide. And also a friend of his that got him into like drinking and doing drugs and rap music also passed away a few years later, and that's kind of why the album is called Dead Friends. He's paying respect or acknowledging these people that have passed away in his life and have kind of shaped his life, which is very honest for a young man like Jakey to do. It is hard speaking about something so personal when you're still trying to entertain somebody, like I've been doing today in this podcast. I hope this has been entertaining. It's weird doing these podcasts by myself. I miss Heidi. I miss people. Just doing a podcast is difficult by yourself, obviously, but I hope this was at least informative, and I want you to go out and listen to Oliver Tree, and don't judge a book by its bowl haircut cover, and also go out and listen to Jakey. Some great tunes. It's rap music, but you know, you don't have to be big into rap to enjoy these songs. I think they're catchy enough to enjoy by themselves, and they're also deep enough to kind of bring you in. They're not about bitches and whores and having nice cars and money and stuff. It's about two genuine, vulnerable people trying to express their inner feelings through the art of hip-hop, which is what some of the best hip-hop artists have done through like all of time. So yeah, go listen to Oliver Tree, go listen to Jakey, subscribe to Nakey Jakey on YouTube, because his video essays on video games are just hilarious, and he's becoming a rising star. He's someone you want to watch, and he's just a genuine guy, so I don't, unless something R. Kelly-esque comes out about him, I don't really have a bad word to say about him. But thank you for listening to this podcast of me fucking rambling. Hopefully I didn't get too deep or too depressing, and maybe you learned a little bit more about me, kinda. I don't know. It's weird when you're doing a podcast by yourself because you're just in your own head, and then you're talking about the stuff that's in your brain that maybe you wouldn't say when somebody else is here, because you can take a break, you can think about things, whereas I'm literally just thinking of things on the top of my mind, and unfortunately as a person I kind of just say what I think, for better or for worse, not in an offensive way. I can't do that, of course, but I'm also, maybe that's why I connect to people like Jakey and Oliver Tree. I'm kind of sensitive in a way. I have my own mental problems, and these podcasts and YouTube videos that I make are my own therapy, you could say. And I'm just glad that people like yourselves like to listen and come back every week. We've been doing very well on the podcast front. Me and Heidi, of course, have our own second podcast called Tea and Shade, which is all about RuPaul's Drag Race. RuPaul's Drag Race. And that seems like the opposite thing of what I'm into if you follow my Instagram or know me as a person, but I do love it, and it's great to have something that me and my better half can connect to and talk about every week, because it is just great spending time with somebody you love and just sitting down and having a conversation about men just as women. But anyway, yes, big thank you to everybody, and there's more on the way. There'll probably be more of me doing solo podcasts as well on the way, so if you enjoyed this, let me know. And I'm gonna end up here with a little outro music by Oliver Tree. So thank you, and as always,